Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We're very process-driven here. All we want our guys to do is compete every single pitch, every single ball game to the best of their ability.
We can't leave one aspect of the game in the locker room and expect to win. But yet, if we play defense and we pitch and we battle like crazy at the plate, we can beat anybody.
Good evening. Happy Friday, TGIF. Welcome into Sports Talk here on the South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding it down. Man, I walk in today, no corn, no pro, hardly anybody. I don't know what people thought. This is a work day. People understand this is a work day, right? Jared's still here. I had to find him.
Stuck with me.
I'm glad you showed up for work today, Jared.
I was leaving, and you just had to lasso me in at the last minute.
There is a lot of dereliction of duties around here today. No, Kornbluth with a scheduled night off. I know I was making Bill O'Reilly jokes with him last night. No, it was a scheduled vacation. We'll leave it at that. Same with the Professor Tom Hayes. So I'm holding it down tonight. But not alone, because you're along for the ride with me, and I'm very glad. And we have a great show. We are going to finish the week strong. You know, it's the last time we're going to talk until Monday, so we like to leave you on a high note. We like to leave you feeling good, and that's what's going to happen tonight. You're going to feel good. It's a feel-good Friday episode of Sports Talk. So thanks for saddling up and going along for the ride with us tonight. You can join us and be a part of the show. A great chance to join the statewide airwaves with me tonight. Have a statewide audience. Share your thoughts, your concerns, your questions, I always throw this out there, complaints. What would you possibly complain about? I don't know. But if you do have a complaint, we will take that complaint and immediately, in all seriousness, anything that you have, we will take. We take on all comers. We don't screen out and weed out the bad stuff. We take it on. Most of it is very good. So your thoughts tonight are welcomed. 800-956-7266. Reach out and grab a line. They're going to be open, and I will go to you. I have some things planned. We have some guests and other things on the show that we're going to get to, but I will make time for you because you matter to me. Sometimes Kornbluth makes you pay the price. You have to stay on the line for like 6.5 weeks. I think we have a guy that's been holding since last February. We're going to get to him tonight. He's held long enough, and I won't make you wait that long. So go ahead, reach out, grab a line. Things that I'm going to talk about tonight, I have some things that I want to get off my chest that I have an opportunity to do here on a Friday, a feel-good Friday. I want to talk some baseball, of course, as we are in the middle of college baseball, and we have two big games. Clemson cranking up the series against Wake Forest. This isn't your mom and dad's Wake Forest baseball team. This is a top 20 Wake Forest team. Actually, your mom and dad's Wake Forest team was probably pretty good. So is this one. And the Tigers about to start a brutal stretch of ACC games. Wake Forest this weekend. Next weekend, North Carolina. And Gamecock fans can attest to how good that team is. And then you have Louisville coming up as well. So a big, big stretch of games in the ACC for Clemson. And to have Nevada tucked in there too, between North Carolina and Louisville during the exam week, a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. But the home stretch for the Tigers, USC plays game 2 of its series against Florida tonight. And last night they played pretty well. Got great pitching from Clark Schmidt, who actually left the game in the 6th inning with soreness in his forearm. He doesn't think it's a big deal, but that's something to keep an eye on. The Gamecocks cannot afford to lose any of their pitching. That's the one thing they have going for them right now. One thing they don't have going for them right now is offense. And they were shut out last night in that 1-0 loss. And maybe had some opportunities. There was a leadoff double. I think Jonah Bride in the 5th had a leadoff double. And they didn't bunt him over to 3rd. I mean, I think the way they are struggling, you're going to have to find ways to manufacture runs. And Chad Holbrook is he's pushing a lot of buttons. Unfortunately for him, it's just nothing seems to be working in terms of that offense right now. And I don't think they're going to really be a great offensive team. They just don't seem to have those kind of guys up and down their lineup. But they have capable guys, and if you can get them on and find a way to play productive small ball, and you have that pitching staff, that's the game plan, but it hasn't worked out for them. They've lost a ton of one-run games, and last night was another one. So tonight, back at it again. Florida with that great pitching staff. Will Crow is starting for the Gamecocks. They still have Johnson in the back end of that bullpen. But I'm going to go out. Here's a hot take for you. South Carolina is going to have to score a run to win this game. They're not going to win if they put a goose egg up. I mean, that's the kind of analysis you just can't get anywhere, folks. They're going to have to find a way to score some runs and get some offense going. And this is an important stretch of games for USC, and Holbrook has put himself out there. He walked back the comments about the fans and how they play better on the road, maybe because the players don't get yelled at as much by the fans on the road as they do at home. I think he regretted that when he thought about it. But all that stuff, all that outside, it's only going to get worse if they come back without at least a win or two. Probably two is what they need to get people feeling good again. But that's not going to be easy. Florida is a very good team in terms of pitching, and South Carolina's not hitting the ball very well. I mean, the Davison kid on Tuesday was no-hitting them. He had an ERA over 8. They didn't bounce back until the 7th inning, and they got a few runs. They just have not had productive offensive games, which is something they're going to have to find a way to pull out of somehow, some way. So we're going to talk a little baseball. Coming up in our next segment, we'll check in. We'll head up to Clemson and Doug Kingsmore and get a report from David Hood, and also down to Gainesville with John Whittle, where he is covering the game for the BigSpur.com, and he's going to check in with us. So we'll get a scene setter from those two and see what the latest is for the Tigers, get the lineups and all that good stuff, and see where things stand there. I want to talk some football tonight as well, because we've got spring practice now in the rearview mirror. We're kind of hitting those dog days. It's almost 90 degrees in Columbia today. It's going to be scorching hot before we know it. We're going to be just counting down the days until football season, and we'll get there. But I want to talk a little football. I want to talk about where things stand for Clemson and USC. Our Sports Talk question of the day, which we posted on Twitter, at SportsTalkSC is our Twitter feed, by the way. Give us a follow. You want to keep up with everything that we are keeping up with there on Twitter. But our Sports Talk question of the day, now that Deshaun Watson is off and running and moving on to the NFL, we'll find out where he's drafted. Great interview, by the way, last night with Watson here on the show. Really enjoyed that. If you missed it, it's on the website over at SportsTalkSC.com. But now that he is gone, who is the best college football player in the state of South Carolina? There was no question it was Deshaun Watson. No question. He was the best college football player in the country. Sorry, Lamar Jackson. Deshaun Watson was a better college football player than you. He should have won the Heisman. Okay? We can close that thread. That's settled. That's settled science, as they say. So people are chiming in, and we'll share our thoughts on that. We'll read some of those responses. You can call in with your response as well. Getting a lot of feedback on who is the best college football player in the state of South Carolina. Is it Dexter Lawrence? Is it Christian Wilkins? Is it Jake Bentley? Has he picked up that torch now? The Gamecock quarterback, is he ready to become that? So we'll kick that around. Biggest need for USC? What's their biggest question mark going into next season? I mean, last year, you could have picked, it was multiple choice last year for South Carolina. I think it's a little more defined this year. Clemson, the very easy one now. And we talked about Deshaun Watson. I mean, not going to bury the lead.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
It's definitely quarterback for them. But we'll talk more about that coming up as well. Some baseball. We got John Whittle and David Hood joining us. And you, go ahead, reach out, grab a line. Sports Talk, we're just getting started here on a Friday night. Glad you're along for the ride. Sit back, relax. We're going to have a good time tonight. Cruising through your Friday evening here on Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary holding it down. Corn and the pro with the night off. Jared Rogers-Martin behind the glass. And you can join us as well, 800-956-7266. Want to talk a little college baseball here in this segment. Let's take you to each ballpark. I'm beginning with Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Then we'll head down to Gainesville and get a look at USC and Florida. But want to start with Clemson and Wake Forest, a top 5 team in Clemson taking on a top 20 team in Wake Forest. And this begins a key stretch of conference games for the Tigers. David Hood joins us from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Happy Friday, David. First of all, I think the weather's going to be okay tonight. It looks like it could be a little shaky up there later this weekend.
Yeah, in fact, they came out with the announcement that they're going to play a doubleheader tomorrow starting at 2. Tonight, the weather's gorgeous, just sun and a few clouds. And it's supposed to be okay tomorrow, maybe showers moving in late tomorrow night. So they made the decision to go ahead and play the doubleheader starting at 2.
All right. Well, how does the lineup look for the Tigers tonight? Any changes? I imagine Monty's pretty settled with where he's putting guys at this stage.
You know, he is. It's the same lineup we saw against Georgia the other night with Robert Jolly DH and hitting a little bit higher up ahead of Andrew Cox. Pender leading it off there in the 4 spot. The lineup I think he really likes right now.
They bounced back with that win over Georgia. They went down to Florida State. That was really, that was kind of, if you can use a football term, kind of a trap series, if you will, for them. With the Seminoles were playing for everything there, but they bounced back. And Monty Lee just keeps finding a way to keep his guys loose. Nothing seems to be too big. I know everybody's talked about the eat pressure like candy phrase over and over, but they really are a loose bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, I talked to him and some of the players the other night after the game. Hey, was it great? Good thing to flush that Florida State loss. And they were all like, hey, it's baseball. Florida State was finally healthy. We know it's not going to be perfect all the time. And I think that's why this team plays so loose. Monty just didn't put any pressure on them. No one game is too big or too little for these guys. And, this is a critical series for them. Wake Forest is playing well, and they've got Louisville, North Carolina State coming up here in the next few weeks. All ranked teams, all really good teams.
Yeah, they're going to find out where they stand in terms of the ACC race for sure. This Wake Forest team, what's the pitching matchup look like tonight?
Well, you got Charlie Barnes, the left-hander. He was a little rocky against Florida State last Saturday. And he's going up against Parker Dunshee, who is Wake Forest ace. Last time Clemson saw Parker Dunshee, he pitched 3 innings. in the ACC tournament last year. It was the game Clemson eventually won 5-4 to advance to the ACC championship. Dunshee only gave up 1 run in 3 innings, but he still took the loss. He kind of came in relief after starting earlier in the week. Dunshee, he'll mix speeds. He's got a good fastball. I think it'll be a good matchup for Clemson's lineup tonight. We'll see if these left-handers can get it going.
And Wake Forest is catching Seth Beer on an uptick. I'm sure they're thrilled about that.
Yeah, Seth is, he's raised that average, I think, 30, 35 points in the past couple of weeks. And he told me Wednesday night after the Georgia game that Monty went back and showed him film of what he looked like when he was going good. And what he was doing, he was chasing pitches out of the strike zone. Teams were pitching around him, and he was beginning to chase. So now that he's not chasing, he's taking his walks, and then when pitches are in the strike zone, he's beginning to crush them. And, even in that game against, I think it was Florida State, Sunday, he hit several balls right on the nose. They were just right at people, and I thought, here we go. I think this kid's getting ready to really heat up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a dialed-in Seth Beer. That's not good for anybody that the Tigers play. We appreciate it, David, and we'll be following you on Twitter and keeping up with the Tigers and Demon Deacons getting started here in a few minutes.
All right, K-Mac, thanks.
All right, and let's go from Doug Kingsmore Stadium down to Gainesville, Florida. John Whittle from thebigspur.com getting ready for USC and Florida game 2 of this series. Hey, a great pitchers duel last night, but the Gamecocks couldn't get any offense, John, and they're going to have to – I went out on a limb and had a hot take earlier that they're going to have to score at least 1 run to win this game.
Oh, you're a brilliant man, K-Mac.
Yeah.
You're a brilliant man.
I am.
Florida was able to string together 2 hits last night in a row, and South Carolina was not, and that was the difference in the game. Couple of 2-out hits for the Gators down at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, I know this is the $1 million question, but what do you do if you're Chad Holbrook? I know we can talk about the lineup. I see that he's shaking things up a little bit again tonight. No Alex Destino in the lineup, that's kind of big. But what do you do?
How long do you have?
Yeah.
How long is the show? No, the thing with Alex is he's just not making really any side of the ball right now. He's hitting a lot of ground balls, can't get any lift, and you've got to try some different combinations. Fortunately for South Carolina, Madison Stokes is starting to come around a little bit. TJ Hopkins is able to get back into the lineup tonight. They've got some guys hitting well, but they haven't been able to put together 2, 3, 4 hits in an inning, and they've actually relied on a few long balls this year. So. That's what's going to have to propel them right now is just finding a couple of guys to get hot, because right now it's not really happening. There's too many holes in the order.
Yeah, you're right about that, and it is good, I'm sure, for Holbrook to get Hopkins in. He was talking last week about how they were ready to take the reins off of him, and he was all the way back. Do you think he's going to be all the way back, or is he going to be limited out there?
It's just a day-by-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
He feels good right now, and maybe it'll feel good in 9 innings. It may feel good for 3 or 4. Honestly, until he can get off it for an extended period of time, is probably not going to heal. And they've got to figure out exactly what's going on too. So they don't really even know that yet, exactly what's going on with him. So right now they're just kind of taking it day by day, and right now he feels good enough to start, and we'll see if he lasts 9 innings. Yeah,
and LT Tolbert moving up to the 2-hole. Finally have him up there, and that Tolbert, Cortez, Colon, those guys. That's not a bad looking middle of your order right there, and then Bride at your 5-hole. Those guys have been hitting pretty well. They just need some of those other guys. Even Olson's been hitting okay. They have guys up and down the lineup. You look at it and go, yeah, these guys aren't bad hitters, but like you said, they've just been unable to string anything together. And last night they couldn't even manufacture anything.
Yeah, and last night was really difficult to watch, and with Alex Naito on the mound, and Florida's got a better pitcher on the mound tonight, and Brady Singer. He's a sophomore, and they're talking about him going 1-1 next year. So that's the kind of talent that South Carolina's facing tonight. He'll get his fastball up there about 97. He'll pitch pretty comfortably in the mid-90s with some sink, and that's a tough task.
Yes, yeah. Florida's not the staff you want to see when you're struggling to hit the ball. But like we talked about earlier on the show, they were getting no hit by a guy with an ERA of over 8 on Tuesday. So it's like pick your poison. Schmidt left the game last night. I know you talked to him afterwards with some soreness there in his forearm. I mean, that always makes you nervous when you hear about a pitcher with soreness in his arm. What's your take on how that's going to shake out?
It makes you really, really nervous because a lot of times when you have that forearm soreness, it goes up to the elbow, and that's obviously never a good thing for a pitcher. And it's definitely concerning. The impression I got from talking to Chad and talking to Clark, they're optimistic. They're cautiously optimistic. They feel like it's not going to be a serious injury, and it's not gonna go into the elbow. But there's still some worry there. There's some worry. I'm sure he'll have an MRI on Monday when they get back, and get a full diagnosis. But right now they're cautiously optimistic that it's just going to be a little bit of tightness, maybe a little strain, and keep him out for a short period of time and not a long period of time.
When it rains, it pours. John, we appreciate it. Hold it down there. We'll be keeping up with your coverage there on Twitter and at thebigspur.com.
I appreciate it, K-Mac. Thanks for having me.
John Whittle down in Gainesville, USC, and Florida. We'll be getting started momentarily. And, boy, the Gamecocks need to win. That is scary stuff with Clark Schmidt, their Friday starter. That's your ace, so to speak. And he was on the shelf earlier this year with, I think it was a shoulder, an oblique sort of deal. It wasn't anything with his pitching arm, but this is pitching arm related, and that is certainly cause for concern. We're going to run off to a break, talk a little football on the other side here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. It's Sports Talk on a Friday night, South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding it down, flying solo today, a solo mission. I've got Jared Rogers-Martin.
That you do.
Chilling behind the glass, keeping us on the air, hopefully sounding as well as we possibly can anyway on a Friday. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266. You can follow along on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. A lot of people chiming in on our Sports Talk question of the day on Twitter, which is, with Deshaun Watson gone, who is the best college football player in the state of South Carolina? A lot of people chiming in. Let's read a few of these at Sports Talk SC. Mostly Clemson players being selected here, and two are leading the charge,
which is not surprising.
Yeah. Jess says Christian Wilkins. Johnny Boy says right now Dexter Lawrence, but that could change come December. Here's Austin, who says Brian Edwards. He's going to be a star. BP says Dexter Lawrence might wind up being the best DT from South Carolina ever. There's been some really good defensive tackles to come out of this state. Really good defensive tackles. But Dexter Lawrence is a man. And so is Christian Wilkins. I mean, pick your poison there. Which one of those guys? Nick goes with Christian Wilkins at this point in time. The Oculus goes with Christian Wilkins. Lori, she's going Renfro. Let's see. So we do have a Jake Bentley. Lots. Yeah, there are. Here's a Deion
with
Kane.
Someone who says,
"Come on,
Jake
Deion
Bentley,
Kane,
hands down,"
hands down,
and then 2 minutes later throws in someone else.
Well,
so
here's
it's not a hands down if you already
throw it in somebody else. Then he said, or Brian Edwards.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
Brian
no,
Edwards.
It's not hands down.
Those guys have a chance. Like Jake Bentley, if he takes a step forward this year, because his floor, that was the floor for him last season. And we saw a taste of how he could throw the ball around in that bowl game against South Florida. Now, South Florida was probably the worst defense that Bentley faced, maybe even worse than UMass. But he did what you do against a bad defense. He played very well in that game. And he played very well in a win against Tennessee. I mean, he's a good player. Now, Clemson in Florida, those defenses, which were very good. Clemson had one of the best defenses in the country. Florida's was not as good as Clemson's, but that was a very fast, athletic, strong defense. And the Gamecocks didn't score in that game until late. Now, that's not all on Jake Bentley. But that Clemson game was the only game that I saw him where I thought, boy, he's seeing shadows. This guy, you're playing at Death Valley. That defense was all over him. That game was not on Jake Bentley. I'm not putting it on him. But if he has a season where he steps forward and improves, and that offense improves, and now they've got some experience.
Improves.
Well, that's your big thing, and that kind of leads us into our next point on what the biggest question for each program post-spring going into the preseason camp. And at Clemson, it's a no-brainer. I mean, Clemson has been enjoying the benefits of great quarterback play for a while now, not just with Deshaun Watson. Remember, Deshaun Watson came in there after Taj Boyd, and Taj Boyd was an outstanding quarterback until Watson came along. You can make a very strong case that, at least statistically speaking, certainly Taj Boyd was the best quarterback in Clemson history. No, Deshaun Watson's on another level. Now they had a little bit of Cole Stout mixed in there, but it was Deshaun Watson's team, and it was clear it was going to be Deshaun Watson's team from that Georgia game when he threw a touchdown pass on his first drive as a college football player as a freshman. And when he scored, 4 touchdowns against South Carolina with a busted knee, a torn ACL, guy was a machine. But now all of a sudden, Clemson doesn't have a guy. They don't have a proven guy. And that's a big question. Who is going to be the guy? Who's going to be the guy that starts against Kent State? Who's going to be the guy that starts against South Carolina? Is it going to be the same guy? That's a question for Clemson. Okay, let's say Kelly Bryant starts the season. Is he going to be the starter at the end of the season?
No.
A lot of people say that. I haven't seen Brian play enough. I don't know. I mean, these freshmen, I haven't seen them play. Maybe they're going to be very good. We've seen freshmen play at a high level, but he's still going to be a freshman, and that's tough. Now, Clemson's defense.
But you just get that little extra seasoning in.
Yeah, we've already talked about Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins, and that Tiger defense is going to be salty. It's going to keep them in football games. But at some point, your offense is going to have to score. Your offense is going to have to make some plays. And more importantly, that's just what's been great about the Clemson defense over the years, in my opinion. And as great as Deshaun Watson is, what has happened at Clemson is their defense erases mistakes, and so whoever wins the quarterback job, you get a little leeway. Like if you turn the ball over, that's bad. Okay, again, this is like the baseball hot take that I had. Turnovers are bad. You have to score runs to win a baseball game, but Clemson's defense would erase a turnover, because if you turn the ball over on your own 40, oh, that's bad. The other team has a good chance to score, but then Clemson's defense stymies them, and they go 3 and out. And they get the ball right back. The only thing you really lose is a little field position. If teams aren't capitalizing and turning turnovers into points, then it doesn't really impact you as much. And that's one thing that Clemson will have the benefit of, is that great defense that's going to make it very difficult for opposing teams to score. But that's the biggest question for Clemson, in my opinion. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. South Carolina, again, last year you would have said, okay, it's who's going to be their playmaking wide receiver, who's going to be the quarterback. I remember people were thinking it was going to be Brandon McElwain at this point last year. Was it going to be McElwain or Perry Orth to start against Vanderbilt? Well, we all saw how that played out. And at the end of the year, it was Jake Bentley. I don't think there wasn't one person a year ago that was saying, I think Jake Bentley is going to be the guy. No, Jake Bentley was still in high school this time last year. He was still in high school when we were talking about this last year.
I guess at this time, but we were seeing some of those summer practices and those late summer scrimmages when you were saying, of the 3 quarterbacks throwing right now, Jake Bentley is clearly the superior passer.
Well, I mean, they opened up 2 practices. I went to 2 open practices at South Carolina. So it's a small sample size, but he did look good in those practices, which I said. And I'm not some kind of John Gruden quarterback guru. He looked like the best passer. You could see the raw ability on him. I mean, he has that, and people that have watched him play now, you can tell. You can kind of look at a quarterback and tell if he's flustered or if he has that ability, and he has that ability. Like you don't get real nervous when he's standing in the pocket. You just can sense that he's going to make a good decision, and he usually does. He's a coach's son. He looks like a guy that knows what he's doing back there. So they don't have questions at quarterback. They don't have questions at running back. That was another question for the Gamecocks last year. Rico Dowdle is their guy. They have a stable of good running backs. They have proven playmakers at wide receiver with Brian Edwards and Deebo Samuel.
If he stays
now,
healthy.
and that's a question. Deebo Samuel's health, his hamstrings, those are always an issue. But at the end of the year, he stayed pretty healthy. They seem to find a balance with him, and he was able to really contribute. They have a great tight end. The offensive line, that is certainly – now that's your biggest – so that you're going offensive line. See, this is where we differ. I'm going defensive line. Pass rush. I mean, the Gamecocks have not had a pass rush since the Clowney years, and they really haven't had a legitimate, consistent pass rush. It was a little bit better last year. That's a relative term. Their best pass rusher is gone. Darius English was their best pass rusher last year. They don't have him. So who is it going to be for the Gamecocks?
Will Muschamp said that he doesn't know, and the person might not even be in practice yet as far as the
Shamik Blackshear would be a candidate. I mean, they've got to find some guys that can beat their guy one-on-one, that can just get past the tackle, or a bull rush guy, the defensive tackle that can just blow the center back, move the line of scrimmage. The Gamecocks have not had that on defense. They haven't been able to get off blocks. They haven't been able to rush the passer. The defensive line, to me, is the biggest question mark for the Gamecocks.
Them on the running.
Oh, shredded them on the running game, and that's got to improve for the Gamecocks. How about that? A little football talk in mid-April or late April. It's football season year-round here on Sports Talk. How about a little recruiting coming up? Oh, full recruiting report, even though Corn's not here. Hey, Ray Tanner got a little over $100,000 raise today. How is your day going? USC Board of Trustees, they were giving contract extensions out to everybody today. Well, Ray Tanner and a couple of basketball coaches. Tanner gets a 3-year contract extension. His pay bumped from just over $700,000 a year to now $900,000 annually. Frank Martin grabbed the 1-year extension. He'll make $3.3 million per in the final year of that contract. And Dawn Staley, 4-year contract extension that locks her up through 2025, and she'll make just over $2 million per season in the last year of that contract. Good for them. If you see those guys out and about around Columbia area, those listening to us on the Point here, our Columbia affiliate, make sure that they pick up the check because they have a little more money in the old bank account. Clemson and Wake Forest, a scoreless. USC and Florida. I have this game on my schedule starting at 6:30, but according to my game tracker, nothing. So maybe it's a 7 o'clock start, and the schedule that I have printed has the time wrong because I don't have anything popping up on my Gamecast or on my television screen. So we'll keep an eye on that as well, but no score. The Tigers now batting in the bottom of the first. Let's jump into recruiting, shall we? I'm going to do my best to do this with enthusiasm, energy, and effort, even though Corn is not here. And recruiting is, well, it's not my, you know what? It's Friday. It's Friday. We're being positive. So I love recruiting, and I'm going to just enjoy every second of this. Let's begin. Interest in West Florence product, defensive end Dorian Gerald of the College of the Canyons. That's a junior college out in California. It's climbing with recent offers coming from Texas Tech, Memphis, and Washington State. USC has, of course, been one of his offers, along with Tennessee, Arizona State, Syracuse, Marshall, and others. He's looking for more offers as his spring practice continues. He expects to hear things from Louisville, Oklahoma, Texas Tech. Tennessee is also expected to come out and watch him practice. Gerald says he knows USC will be coming out as well, but the Gamecocks haven't given him a definite date yet. He said he's had some contact, though. He has a great relationship with Lance Thompson. They talk 3 or 4 times per week. He said Syracuse, Marshall, Tennessee, Washington State, and Arizona State are also recruiting him hard, and he talks regularly with coaches from those programs. He has not set any dates for visits, but when he gets home in early June, he plans to visit USC and Tennessee, and he plans to also see several others on his offer list. He's building a relationship with the other teams as well, but he's not ready yet to identify a short list of favorites. He wants to narrow things down this summer. No decision date in his head. He hasn't thought about it much. Last season, Gerald registered 54 tackles with 24 for a loss. He also had 12 sacks. USC plans to sign 2 quarterbacks in his 2018 class. Now, it's clear to Carry-On Joyner, Fort Dorchester is number 1 on their board. But after that, it's a little fuzzier as the Gamecocks have offered 14 other quarterbacks. Not all of them are under consideration, but one is expected to hear from Gamecocks quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper soon, and that's Tyler Shuck of Chandler, Arizona. Was just out Chandler Way
14
a couple weeks ago. 14. Yeah, 14 other quarterbacks. They're casting a wide net, apparently. Tyler Shuck, that's spelled Shough, but pronounced Shuck. He received his first Power 5 offer from the Gamecocks, and he visited Columbia earlier this month. Since then, he's added offers from Michigan, Alabama, Washington State, and Missouri from the major conferences. Kurt Roper's coming out May 2nd to watch him throw and say hi, Shuck said. He's also talked with former Gamecock player Mike Hold, who he says he knows. And Shuck said Hold is the best friend of his head coach, and he's talked to him a couple of times. He does not have any future visits planned and has not determined favorites, does not have a top 1 right now. He said he's still evaluating. USC is also keeping tabs on 2017 quarterback Weston Elliott out of Butler Junior College in Kansas. And he's got his eyes on the Gamecocks, and it's a mutual interest. And Boise State, North Texas, Arizona, and Troy have also been in contact with Elliott. He's a native of Texas who played just 1 season at Butler. He can transfer in May, and he'll have 4 years to play 3. Shrine Bowl quarterback Darius Douglas of Berkeley announced that he will join USC this fall as a preferred walk-on. Last season, he passed for 2,118 yards and 28 touchdowns. He rushed for 760 yards and 13 touchdowns. Trey Turner of Greensboro, North Carolina, announced his top 10 list today, along with Ole Miss, NC State, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Florida, Louisville, and Miami. So a list of 10 now for Trey Turner out of Greensboro. Tight end John Fitzpatrick of Atlanta has been red hot in terms of offers in recent weeks, jumping on board Georgia, Western Kentucky, Wake Forest, South Florida, Appalachian State, Tennessee, Minnesota, Iowa State, Maryland, and Pitt. USC is also one of his offers, and he's in regular contact with Gamecock coaches. He's been texting with Coach Pat Washington a lot. Fitzpatrick has visited Georgia, UCLA, Duke, Columbia, and Virginia. No favorite right now. No visits planned as well. Linebacker Trejada Mitchell Virginia Beach, Virginia plans to visit Clemson Saturday. USC offered defensive end Abdul Malik McClain, 6'3", 225 of San Juan Casperito, California. He's been also receiving offers, has also received offers from Notre Dame, Arizona State, Oregon State, Louisville, and UCLA. USC has offered a 2019 wide receiver, Manir McClain of California, same junior college. He's also got Arizona State and UCLA offers. And 2020 wide receiver, Leonard Manuel III out of Ocala, Florida. He's the third. Not to be confused with Leonard Manuel the first or Leonard Manuel the second. This is Leonard Manuel the third, okay? He's out of Ocala. He's got a USC offer. Remember, it's not Leonard Manuel the second. It's the third.
The third.
Never understood
maybe
that.
The fourth?
Why? I mean, he's just Leonard Manuel. And why would you name 3 people in your family the same name? There's something wrong with that. Like Nota Begay the third, Davis Love the third. Just call him Davis Love, right? Okay, that's another topic. That is tonight's recruiting report. If you want more, recruiting is updated a lot, very frequently on the website, SportsTalkSC.com. You don't have to be an insider. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to give your credit card number. It's absolutely free of charge. In fact, everything on our website is free of charge. There's not a lot of things that are free in life. Air, sunshine, rain, and SportsTalkSC.com. Great sports coverage. Add that to your list of free things. You're coming out ahead. Interviews, links to interviews, recruiting, all of that's there on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. And also on our website, you can click on links to watch our show, watch old shows. If you missed something and you want to go back, you can do that. You can find our list of affiliates if you're driving around the state. I know we're kind of in the spring break area now. Summer vacations won't be that far away. You're heading down to the beach or up to the mountains or just out and about. You can find one of our many great affiliates from around the state. So many great affiliates around the state where you can listen to Sports Talk. That's at SportsTalkSC.com. We're coming up on the top of the hour. As we hit the top of the hour, Clemson threatening here in the bottom of the first. They have 2 on and nobody out. So we'll see if the Tigers can take an early lead. Actually, now the base is loaded and nobody out for the Tigers as we hit the top of the hour break. And that South Carolina-Florida game must be starting at 7 o'clock because we have nothing so far in that one as the Gamecocks try to even things up with the Gators. Top of the hour break. More sports talk coming up on the other side, including the full Monty. We'll see you on the other side. Don't even think about going away.
Panther schedule as well.
Oh, yeah, we are going to go over the Panther schedule. Jared wants to go over the Panthers.
I see improvement.
Well, they better improve. That would be bad if they didn't. They had a terrible season last year.
Well,
we'll go through that schedule coming up.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here is Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Clemson is not playing first. 4th-ranked Tigers taking on the 17th-ranked Demon Deacons. A 4 spot in the first inning for the Tigers. 4 runs on 4 hits, and they lead 4-0 as they head to the second. USC in Florida just about to get started in Gainesville. We'll keep our eye on that game as well. The Gamecocks really need to try to find a win or 2 down in Gainesville to get going, because they are, you could just, it's such a difference. The guys up and down the lineup are hitting. They had 4 hits there in that first inning. Just guys moving people up, doing the little things. And South Carolina, earlier in the season, they were playing with a lot more confidence. They went up to Tennessee and swept the balls. They got big hits in that series. They scored a lot of runs. They beat Clemson on a Friday night at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. They had Clemson on the ropes on that Saturday game. And then Johnson got hurt. They lost that Sunday game, and I think that is what you would call the turning point in the season. When Seth Beer hit that home run in the 9th, like something changed. Like the fans got really upset. Holbrook made some weird decisions in that game, and things just kind of turned, and they've been a little snake bit since then. And they had that 3-run homer in the bottom of the 9th at Auburn. They played pretty well that weekend, too. They had a chance to win that series at Auburn. That's a good Auburn baseball team. Cat hits a 2-out, 3-run homer to beat them. Just has not been the same. So they need to find a way to get back on the winning side. They have not won the opening game in an SEC series this year. 0-7. If they lose tonight, they will have dropped, let's see, they lost to Auburn, they lost to Vanderbilt, they lost to Mississippi State. So that will be 4 straight SEC series that they lost. They're going to come back home and face a really good Kentucky team at home with a bunch of angry Gamecock fans. I mean, this thing could get away from them. It really could. I mean, this thing could go sideways in a big way if they're not careful with the games they have coming up, because they go to LSU after that.
It was a big game in that first series against Florida. You needed that last win from last night.
Yeah, they need a win, and losing 1-0 and not getting anything. So we'll see what happens for the Gamecocks tonight. But the Tigers off to a great start there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. It is college golf championship season, conference championships going on. So let's give you a quick update on the leaderboard and let you know how some of the teams are doing. The SEC Men's Golf Championship, USC is 8th after today's first round, 2 over. Texas A&M is the leader. They're at 12 under. Clemson Golf has been playing outstanding this season. They have a really good club there. And a good team, I should say. And the Tigers are 8 under after the opening round. They are in 3rd place. Duke is at 11 under. Florida State at 10 under. So those 3 are really kind of out ahead of everybody. Then it's Georgia Tech at even par at number 4. I can give you the Big South here real quick because I have it in front of me. Charleston Southern is 4th at 1 over par. Winthrop is 6th at 6 over. PC is 9 over and in 9th place. That is that. Oh, speaking of golf, I do have a golf hot.
Toss it to me.
I've got we mentioned yesterday that Tiger Woods is going to be out the rest of the season from another back surgery. I think this is 3 back surgeries for Tiger. And the days of asking if Tiger's going to catch Jack Nicklaus in major championships, those days are over. And Tiger winning a major championship, those days.
Tiger is done. Surely.
You think he's completely done?
I think he will not do anything
be
relevant.
Competitive again.
Yeah, I think he's done.
See, this is where my hot take comes in. I think Tiger, here's what I think Tiger should do.
Don't tell me.
Here's how Tiger Woods should play this thing. First of all, he's got to get healthy. I mean, this is all contingent on his back getting right. And I know people, knock on wood, I have not had major back problems. I know people that have that. It's torture. It's torture for an athlete, especially for anybody. If you're not an athlete, if you're just a regular person and your back is giving you problems. And this latest surgery was just so he could be comfortable. I mean, the guy, right. But I'm going to venture a guess that he's going to get great doctors that are going to get his back right. He's going to get feeling good. And here's what he needs to do. He only needs to think about one that he does. He doesn't need to worry about chasing Jack Nicklaus anymore. That's over. Okay. You just need to get healthy and then focus on Augusta. That needs to be the end all be all. That your Super Bowl, that tournament. Everything else that you do is to get ready for Augusta. And after Augusta, if you want to play some other courses, you're comfortable, like Bay Hill, places where you've won a lot. And if you still want to do the British Open, I'm not saying don't play any other majors, and maybe he could win on the right British Open course where he's had some success. But Augusta, a course that he's very familiar with, very comfortable on, that you don't have to be a really big, long hitter like the old guys. We saw this the last tournament. Sergio Garcia won it. He's an older guy. Phil Mickelson was up there for a while. He's in his late 40s. Fred Couples, year in and year out, you see him up near the top of the leaderboard because he knows his way around Augusta. He knows all the nooks and crannies. He knows where to put it on the greens. He knows the pin placements. He's seen it all. Tiger's in that boat, so he just needs to put on that tournament. And I think Tiger Woods can compete at Augusta. He still has a window. Tiger's only 41 for a guy that's 45 years old to win the Masters. It's not unheard of. Jack Nicklaus won his last. I think he was 47. So Tiger, that would give him a 6-year window to win another one at Augusta. Tiger Woods is going to compete at Augusta. It's going to be a magical weekend. It's going to set television ratings records. Tiger Woods is going to compete at Augusta again. He's going to be in contention on a Sunday.
No.
Mark it down.
No.
It's going to happen. And
What's the closest
and people,
he's come
you're
to
listening to this right now, and it's going to happen, and you're going to have an aha moment. You're going to be like, man, that idiot, Kevin McCrary, was on the radio. He called it. I got to give it to him. He called it. Tiger Woods is going to compete at Augusta. He is going to get healthy, get his game right enough to compete at Augusta.
Under the size of the sun, the caveat right here, if he gets healthy again. 3 back surgeries is
I've seen guys. I saw Kobe Bryant. There was a year, the Lakers got bounced out of the playoffs. Kobe Bryant looked old. I mean, he had no elevation. He couldn't get to the rim anymore. And I was like, man, this is awful. This is terrible. Kobe's done. He went to Germany and got some blood spinning done. Maybe I should use air quotes. I don't know what he did, but I'm sure Tiger has the same. Call Kobe up and ask him what he did, Tiger. But he came back the next season, and it was like he was 5 years younger. He was explosive again. He played at a higher level for about 3 more years, and then he broke down. Age gets us all at some point. And I know you're talking about 2 different sports, but golf is it's a physical game, and if your back's not right, that's a problem. But it's not football. He doesn't have to go out and take hits from Julius Peppers. Okay, he doesn't have to go out and try to guard LeBron James. He just has to get a golf swing back. I think that's doable at 41. He's not 50. He's 41. Tiger Woods is going to compete for another major chance. I think Augusta's the spot. I think every year he could go back there and he could have a few years where you're like, hey, you know what? The thing about Tiger, you don't count him out at Augusta. I think we're going to be saying that one day. The Tiger resurrection story, man, that would be sports gold. And golf wants it. They'd do anything to get him back. Anything to get him back.
Golf is slipping stem cells into his back right now. Just
if I'm Tiger, I do everything. I find the best doctors. I call all these things. But, man, get back, Tiger. Get back. We'll be right back. Clemson up 4-0, bottom of the second. Tigers taking on Wake Forest. And USC and Florida now in the bottom of the first. Good start for the Gamecocks. So they got a 2 spot in the first inning. TJ Hopkins was hit by a pitch. And Carlos Cortez, who else? Boy, he is really swinging a hot bat right now. And the Gamecocks sure need it. He hit a 2-run homer. And he has been their best hitter, the freshman, coming on strong. And the Gamecocks looking for any kind of life that they can get. But the Gators, LT Tolbert, who had been rock solid defensively, made his 4th error in the past 7 games. He didn't make any errors until the North Carolina game. He made his first, and now he's committed 3 since then. So they have a runner on first with 1 out, do the Gators. Will Crow on the mound, but he's working with the 2-run lead. And if you're the Gamecocks now with a working margin and Will Crow on the mound, they've got to capitalize. Got to capitalize, but will they? Will they just relax and play? We shall see. But Will Crow is throwing some nasty stuff. I just watched him throw a breaking ball that was pretty filthy. Pretty filthy. Okay. We want to, first of all, I want to update the Sports Talk question of the day, which is on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. You can chime in on Twitter. It is the question of the day is, now that Deshaun Watson has moved on, who is the best college football player in the state of South Carolina? A lot of people chiming in. South Carolina WX at SC Weather WX. If you have a Gamecock logo, he's going to pick a Gamecock player. He's going Debo Samuel's the best for South Carolina. Clemson's probably someone on the D line. Yeah, this is actually overall, and maybe maybe a Coastal Carolina fan has a player, or Citadel. One of Citadel's best players is now going to be starting at Miami, but yeah, we're opening this up to anybody. It doesn't have to be a Gamecock or a Tiger. My vote would probably go to Dexter Lawrence or Christian Wilkins. I really like Christian Wilkins' game. He's just a freak athlete.
It's a tough question. I mean, the best quarterback in the state now goes to Jake Bentley.
Oh yeah.
And then just from the importance of the position, you can put his name in for the best player in South Carolina, but I don't know if we've seen enough from him.
Yeah, I think he's got to do more. He's got to do more.
Now, Dexter Lawrence has the youth that he's got that ceiling saying, oh, he could be a breakout player and is already in consideration. I think that's who I'd probably put. But Christian Wilkins, man, he put it on last year.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson's defense, and there's been some people that have just said Clemson's defensive line. A few people actually have said Brent Venables, because he's developing those guys and are helping. He's got staff. He's not doing it all by himself. But Brent Venables, what an outstanding hire that was for Dabo Swinney. I mean, we can talk about the recruiting and things that Clemson has done, and they've taken it to another level. But Dabo's hires for his coaching staff have been phenomenal. And when he's missed on one, he has not been afraid to change course. He's had to make changes at his coordinator's positions a couple of times. He's had to make 2 changes, significant ones, where he fired a guy. Now, he's had to replace the offensive coordinator a couple of times because Chad Morris went to SMU as the head coach, but he fired Billy Napier after a bowl loss. And that's when he hired Chad Morris, who was just an up-and-coming guy from Tulsa, had been a former high school coach. A lot of people wondered if his stuff was going to work. It did. And then when he left, he promoted from within with Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott. And Tony Elliott calls the plays, but Jeff Scott has the co-offensive coordinator title. Now, calling plays with Deshaun Watson and calling plays post Deshaun Watson. We'll see how that plays out, because it's not going to be the same calling plays when you don't have number 4 actually running the play. So we'll see. I mean, Tony Elliott's job just got a lot harder, and he knows that. Some other people qualify. Now, here's a question that somebody's asking us on Twitter. We can tackle this one, Jared. Somebody said, was Deshaun the reason why Clemson won that title? Was it more him, or was it more the defense? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, the defense
You don't win a championship with one guy. That's a
But they would not have won.
Question.
If you don't have Deshaun Watson, you don't win a national championship.
If you don't have Mike Williams, you don't win the national championship.
I disagree. They went to the national championship game the year before without Mike Williams.
They won
a Mike Williams away.
They did not win it.
So you think Mike Williams was a difference maker for him? I think Deshaun Watson.
The game was so close. It was a special teams play that won it. You have Mike Williams in there, and then there's suddenly at least 80 more yards in the game, probably another touchdown, and you don't have to rely on it.
I agree one guy doesn't win a game for you. You got to have help. You got to have guys around you. Deshaun Watson didn't win it by himself, but he was the guy. He was the guy when they needed somebody to make a play, when they needed that comeback. He just never gets frazzled. He never gets caught up in the moment. No moment was too big for him. He made mistakes. He's human. He didn't do everything perfect. No player ever doesn't make mistakes. Tom Brady makes mistakes. Peyton Manning's made mistakes. Michael Jordan made mistakes. But like those guys, Watson is unflappable. He just does not let the pressure get to him. And that's easier said than done. A lot of people, you don't realize what kind of pressure that's like. It's very hard to mimic that. I'm trying to think of something like that any of us has probably experienced in our regular lives. We've all been nervous. You had a press conference or a presentation that you had to do, or a job interview. A job interview is probably the closest thing, or that nervousness when you're going to propose. I don't know. But you don't have to do that in front of 95,000 people in a national televised audience. Most of those things that we do, like our job interview, imagine what it would be like knowing that there were going to be millions of people watching your job interview and critiquing it when you're done. Like, how'd you answer that? Where do you want to be in 10 years? That's stupidly. God, you're dope.
Why is he wringing his hands like that?
My God. What is his problem? You wore that tie? What are you thinking? That's what these guys are facing. It's unbelievable how they do that. We forget that sometimes. I think as reporters, I think media members forget it. I think fans forget it. Coaches and players don't forget it. But when you see somebody like Deshaun Watson that can deal with that kind of pressure the way he did, you respect that. Some guys have it. That's a big thing if you're going to be a quarterback. And that's one of the things that I like about Jake Bentley. Like I said, a true freshman coming out there that graduated high school early and was thrust in there mid-season. He was pretty daggum unflappable as well. Now, Clemson was the one team where I thought he was a little rattled. He looked spooked. But even at Florida, they were teeing off on him pretty hard at Florida, and he didn't look – they were struggling. Big time. He was struggling.
They couldn't make plays. He couldn't make plays, but
against Clemson, he was just. That was tough. Now, I'm not putting that game on him. It was a tough deal right there. That Clemson defense chewed him up.
So, best player in the state for you?
Best player in the state? Yeah, I would have to go with Christian Wilkins or Dexter Lawrence. It's one of those two. And there's been a lot of people.
We can split the difference. You'll say Christian Wilkins. I'll say Dexter Lawrence. And between the two of us, we've got it.
Somebody said Sky Moore. That's an intriguing pick. I don't necessarily think he's the best player in the state, but Sky Moore being back for USC, he was a very, very, very
biggest
piece.
Breakout player in South Carolina, the one with the most writing on the most value to their team. Could do that.
He's going to be a big piece to that defense. He's a playmaker. The guy is like one of the all-time leaders in interceptions at South Carolina, which is incredible. He is the king of a drive, teams going down the field and they get into the red zone, and then he gets an interception. I think he has 10 for his career, and half of those are in the end zone. He had a game against North Carolina a couple years ago where the Gamecocks should have lost to the Tar Heels. It was a season opener, and the Gamecock offense was doing nothing. They were just puttering all over the place, as Steve Spurrier would say. And North Carolina was moving up and down the field, but every time they got in the red zone, they would turn it over, and Sky Moore would pick them off in the end zone. And he made some big plays, and South Carolina won that game. And it was the only game North Carolina lost that whole season until the ACC championship game when Clemson beat them. Sports are so bizarre. But, he's going to be a big piece for the Gamecocks. Good question of the day, though. Monty Dutton coming up next.
I believe there's a little bit more chance of that happening this weekend because at Bristol they have put some sort of sticky material along the bottom.
Tempers won't flare in Bristol this weekend. I'm sure tempers won't flare on the short track in Bristol.
I believe there's a little bit more
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
Back on Sports Talk, USC still up 2-0. They have the leadoff guy on, but they tried to bunt him over to second with Matt Williams, and it did not go according to plan, and he ended up striking out. So the Gamecocks now with a runner on first and 1 out against the Florida Gators. Clemson still up 4-0 last check on Wake Forest. The Tigers in very good shape against the Demon Deacons. So that's going well for Monty Lee and the crew. Want to remind you, we have Monty Lee coming up, by the way, and the full Monty will be in effect as they're getting ready to race at Bristol after a week off, the short tracks. They're going to the short tracks. I want to remind you that Founders Federal Credit Union, mentioned USC, they're playing well so far tonight, up 2-0. And Founders is also playing well. They're always playing well. They never hit a slump. Founders is hitting it out of the ballpark. Founders Federal Credit Union's new office in Columbia at the Commons at Bull Street is now open. You can visit their USC campus ATMs at the Russell House and visit relaxfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. The Gamecocks now with 2 on and 1 out, top of the order coming up for TJ Hopkins. See, that's the problem. This inning they had the leadoff guy on. They have Matt Williams up, who is really struggling, and they tried to get him to lay down a bunt, and he was unable to do so. Couldn't get the bunt down and ended up striking out. Those are the little things that you have to be able to do when you're struggling. You have to do those things. And we also have to do something right now. We have to talk to Monty Dutton. They're in Bristol. What I love about the short track racing is the fact that they have some tempers flaring, but I'm sure everybody's going to play nice this week. Right, Monty?
I believe there's a little bit more chance of that happening this weekend because at Bristol they have put some sort of sticky material along the bottom of the track. And, in the old golden era of what many people look back to Bristol, the track it's pretty much hard to get around if you didn't stay at the bottom. And so a lot of times the passing came, the guy would get impatient, couldn't get by somebody, so he'd push away. In recent years, the racing line has been high, and while I would say that from the fair play point of view, from the good racing sense of people having room to pass cleanly, that the racing was better. But I think a lot of the fans, I'm always amazed at the fans who say they want a good, safe, clean race, and they say, well, it doesn't have to be wrecked. I don't like wrecked. I just want good racing. And every time they don't like the race, it's one that there weren't very many wrecks. So I think that unless all this rain this weekend washes away some of this material that's been put down, I think you're going to see a little bit more of a brawling, impatient, brings out the worst in everybody race at Bristol than there's been in a few years. And of course, that's their goal because they want to please the fans. They want to get to a time when there's 165,000 people showing up there again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that might help. And this will be the first time we've seen a race at Bristol under this format. So we'll see how that plays out. And I talked to
well, Bristol doesn't need this format.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas needs this format, but Bristol doesn't need heat races. But it will up the ante. It will make a difference. And I expect we're going to see whenever the race is run. It may not be Monday, but I think that we're going to see fairly cacophonous race. How's that for a term?
Yeah, there's a word of the day.
It's just the one I thought of. I'm sorry.
You've got the big words. You're a writer. You have all those words right there in your arsenal. See, somebody like me, I have to grab a dictionary now after the segment.
Yeah, that's right, K-Mac. I've forgotten more than you'll ever know.
Yes, that's truer than you know. Well, I mean,
no.
We, we've talked a lot about this, and I know you aren't always the biggest fan of the changes that NASCAR makes on a whim, with the arbitrary changes to the rules. In fact, we know they're going to be changing this format, at least tweaking it at some point here in the near future. But has it grown on you at all?
The stages have grown on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a purist. It's just like I like American League Baseball, but I like the National League game.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I mean, after 40 something years, I have grown accustomed to the designated hitter, but I sort of like the strategy in the National League game. Yet I'm a lifelong Red Sox fan. So, you can either stop. I mean, things change. It's not racing's job to please me,
mm-hmm.
but it's my job to say what I think about it.
Right. Well, we were talking to Kerry Tharp earlier this week. He said one of the things that they're looking to address is not counting the laps, the caution laps, not the laps in between segments towards the next segment. That some fans have complained about that, and that might be something they look at changing.
Well, I really don't think that's a big item, regardless of what it is. I mean, it'll make the races last a little longer. My biggest problem, really, I think the stages have raised the level of urgency in the earlier laps. My biggest complaint is everything is so complicated. I mean, it's kind of like, as I said, after two races, Kevin Harvick, I believe, was 9th and 14th, and he was leading the points because all these bonus points. And then there's bonus points that just count for the regular season. There are chase bonus points. And to me, it's needlessly complicated. And it becomes more complicated because they changed last year's complications to this year's complications. So nobody ever gets used to it because, like, for instance, in baseball, I know what happens when there's a hit batter.
Yep.
I know what's happening. I mean, baseball is a complicated game, but I've been watching it all my life. So that's my biggest. I would just like. I mean, of course, this is anathema to NASCAR, obviously. But I would like to see stability. I would like to see where you can compare this year's race to last year's race. But as I said, it's not their job to please me. It's just my job to I try to be honest. Like, for instance, they've had the chase since 2004. I still don't like it. I still like the old way better. But that's not. But my biggest complaint, I know I've said this before, I don't believe you can make racing popular again by changing to fit the people out there.
Yeah.
I think that the only way you can do it is to make people fall in love with it. I really think that instead of saying, everybody's got a short attention span, all these kids say, we're going to make it where it's, that way. What they have to do is, I really think that what makes somebody a fan is going to a track when they're a kid. When I was a kid, my dad took me to Darlington. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I think it's just as bad. I think taking your kid to a short track or having a kid see all of the sound and thunder. Mm-hmm. I really think racing is something that has to be experienced in person. And you're never going to develop a level of devotion in which people are willing to spend all kinds of money, camp out for 3 days, to go to the races. They got to be just slap in love with it.
Yeah.
So I don't think making the sport more significant for people that don't pay attention is going to accomplish that. And I think there's evidence that I may have a little something right because nothing seems to be shaking the needle. racing has reached some sort of tipping point where it doesn't matter what they do, people don't come back.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't just do overnight. You got to just set your foundation and build again.
And what are they going to do in a couple of years? I mean, really any time now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going, he's on the back end. I mean, he's what are they going to do when they lose him? He's the last really big name. I know they have some good young drivers, but man, I mean, they could be in dire straits. To me, the way it's going, not only are they not attracting people, they're losing people.
Well, see, this is the whole point, actually, with my novel, because I got to thinking about all this, and I was thinking about how much more fun it was when I covered racing in the 90s, when there's still guys like Harry Gant and Dale Earnhardt, rough-hewn guys from the wrong side of the tracks. Those are the people that become folk heroes. And so the premise of my novel is there's this wild kid who's got all the talent in the world and speaks his mind and wants to bring back the kids, rowdy kids, to come back to their races. And he's sort of exactly what the sport needs. But, of course, NASCAR thinks FASTAR in my novel. FASTAR is the sanctioning body in my novel. Well, of course, they want everything to be just so and manipulated, and they put a lot of pressure on him, and he clashes with them. But that's really, the answer to my question, what does racing need?
Mm-hmm.
They need a wild young hellion. They need what Jimmy Buffett called a hot Roman candle from the Texas Panhandle.
Mm-hmm.
And so my character is from Spartanburg, but anyway, the book is controversial and funny and irreverent.
And people can check that out and should check that out. And follow Monty Dutton on Twitter. We got to hit a break. Monty, we'll talk to you next week. We'll see what happens at Bristol.
Much obliged, Kevin.
Tightening up at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. They are in the third inning, and it is now 4-3 Clemson in the top of the third. A two-out RBI single and a 2-run homer. Got Wake Forest back in it, and it is 4-3 now as they play in the bottom of the third inning. USC still on top of Florida 2-0, but at last check, the Gators had runners on the corners with 1 out, so Florida threatening there. I want to go through the Panther schedule. It came out right as we were going off the air last night, and the Panthers looking to bounce back after just a huge disappointing season after the Super Bowl run.
Now, remember, though, that they had a lot of close games. There were a lot of games that were decided within 3 points last year.
Yeah, they lost a bunch at the end. That's the NFL, though. I mean, most games in the NFL are that way, really.
With 3 points, I think you could say that they're decided within a touchdown. But there were a lot of 3-point games that the Panthers lost. A lot of games that they were winning at halftime or in the third quarter that they just lost it in the fourth quarter. Which makes you think that there's room for improvement. Not just improvement, but pretty decent improvement from where they were last year.
Yeah, I would say so. I would think they have a good chance. They open up on the road again. Ron Rivera has been griping about this. This is 6 out of 7 years the Panthers have had to open on the road. Not only do they have to open on the road, they have to fly across the country to San Francisco. Now, they play a pretty crummy San Francisco team, but be that as it may, it's still not an easy
Kyle Shanahan's offense ripped them up a couple times last year.
Yeah, maybe Kyle Shanahan will start throwing the ball with a big lead like he did in the Super Bowl.
Who will the 40? I mean, we don't have to answer this just because there is not an answer, but who will they throw out there, QB?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Then they play the Bills at home. That's their home opener, September 22nd. Sean McDermott, of course, their defensive coordinator that took the Bills job. So that'll be a homecoming of sorts for him. Then their first NFC South matchup, September 24th against the Saints. They go to New England to face.
Well, before we get there, that's a good 3 wins.
3 wins?
I think they can win all 3 of those games. Away at 49ers, Bills at home, and then the Saints. I have no faith in the Saints.
You just anytime Drew Brees comes into town, though.
Okay, I have them splitting the Saints game. So it's really tough in the NFC South to win 2 games against the NFC South. And I have them splitting it, but I have them both splitting that series at home.
Yeah.
Panthers get there at home. The Saints get theirs at Mercedes-Benz.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. What about at New England? You don't think they're going to go up and beat the Patriots?
That's a loss.
In Foxborough, do you? So they play at the defending Super Bowl champs. They've had to play on the road against the defending Super Bowl champs now 2 straight years.
I have 3 up and 3 down.
Yeah.
To get ahead of myself.
Then they go to Detroit to face the Lions. Eagles at home. That's a Thursday night game. That's one of their 2 primetime games on October 12th.
That's a loss. So that's 3-3 right now.
At home against the Eagles is a loss.
Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, he's there. Carson Wentz is only going to get better. Their defense isn't.
The Panthers at home in a primetime game. I mean, so if the Panthers can't win that game at home in a primetime matchup, then those are the games you got to win if you're a playoff team.
The Eagles are a playoff cusp team, one that not only could get into the playoffs but could win that first game. I don't think that the Panthers are quite there yet. I think the Panthers are
from the Super Bowl. A year removed from the Super Bowl, where they almost ran the table, Jared.
And then they went 6-10.
Oh, because it's the NFL. They had a bunch of close losses, but you can say they're not there yet. They were just there like a year ago. Come on. They're going to beat the Eagles. Mark my words. They will beat the Eagles.
I'll circle that game. I'll
circle it, start, put an asterisk next to it. The Panthers will win that game. Then they go to Chicago to face the Bears.
Maybe Deshaun Watson.
The Bears. You think Deshaun Watson's going to be a Bear?
I mean, they got to have somebody. Jay Cutler's out. It's not one of the places that I think Deshaun Watson would be getting excited about, but it's a potential. They need someone back there.
Then they play at Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers have Hard Knocks coming this year, by the way. That should be interesting. The Buccaneers. My wife's favorite team's the Buccaneers.
I said earlier that it was really difficult for the NFC South to win games. I have the Panthers winning both games against the Buccaneers next year.
I think the Buccaneers might be the team to beat in the NFC South next year. How about that hot take? I'm full of hot takes tonight.
Yeah,
I'm just blazing hot takes.
That's a hot take that's been said every year for the last 6 years, and the Buccaneers have done nothing in the last 6 years.
Well, they're due. Okay, they're due. Then they play the Falcons at home.
Loss.
A Monday night matchup at home against the Dolphins.
When?
The Dolphins are going to be pretty salty next year, too.
Ryan Tannehill is the
You're
bogus
start
QB.
Hating on Ryan Tannehill now. Then they get the bye week in week 11. So that's a good spot for your bye, middle of the year. They're going to be pretty worn down 10 straight weeks, so they will be ready for that bye.
They almost get a different bye, though. I mean, a double bye, because they did play November 5th and then the 13th on Monday. So they get the extra day of rest, and then they get their bye week. So that, as the Panthers team, they've got to be circling November thinking that they're going to be pretty all right.
They go to the Jets after their bye on the 26th. So
they win that one. Another maybe Deshaun Watson.
Could be. Yeah, Deshaun Watson could be starting against the Panthers on November 26th. That's crazy. That'd be almost a year to the day that he started against South Carolina. The Jets, after that, another road game in New Orleans against the Saints. By the way, Florida has scored a run. It's 2-1, and they have 2 on runners on first and second. Still just 1 out there. So that game as well. The Vikings at home, the Adrian Peterson-less Minnesota Vikings.
They win that game. Last year, they lost that game in devastating fashion. That was one of those blown leads that they were smashing the Vikings through the first half, and then just
that was a weird game that they lost.
So they rebound. They get their revenge.
They had a game like that against Kansas City last year where they were smashing them and let it get away. I mean, they were up huge in that game, and then they lost it in the fourth quarter. They play the Packers at home on December 17th.
I got that as a loss.
Christmas Eve matchup at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's a win.
Should be a win. Gamecocks turn 2 to get out of the inning. So they are going to go to the third with a 2-1 lead. I don't know that that's going to be enough. And then they close out the season New Year's Eve in Hotlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Or Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Are they calling it Mercedes-Benz Dome or
Stadium?
Stadium.
It's open air half the time. If
so
they can ever get that working.
They can open the roof up?
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen that?
I've seen the thing. I thought it might just be a skylight.
Well, I mean, it doesn't work right now. They're delaying it for another 3 months opening because they can't get that.
Are they going to make the taxpayers fix that too?
Oh, I mean,
I guess they are. Basically,
yeah, but right? Atlanta.
Are they going to have a penny tax raise to fix the roof so it can open and close?
No, the penny tax goes to the hotels, which they say it's not a tax on the citizens; it's on the hotels.
Those people in Atlanta, they're paying for a lot of stadiums. Meanwhile, their roads are all buckling underneath. Literally, the roads are buckling underneath their own weight. But man, they're building some hella nice stadiums in the greater Atlanta area. America in 2017. That's what we do. We'll pay taxes extra to build these swanky stadiums for billionaire owners and teams, and we'll let ours crumble into oblivion.
And just burn.
That's
just straight up burn.
Another topic for another day. All right, I see 10 wins on that schedule for the Panthers, and I see them going to the playoffs, and I see them making it to the second round. They'll get through the wild card and then lose in the divisional round of the playoffs.
If you went by the win-loss count that we just went through, that's 9-7, so you're not far off.
You had 9-7?
I had 9-7.
I have 10-6. I don't know that they'll win the division. They'll probably be a wild card.
I think the Falcons will take the division again.
Although the Bucs are doing the hard knocks, that's kind of a curse, isn't it? Those hard knocks teams usually end up stinking a little bit.
More than stinking, just by week 3, no one cares anymore.
That's going to do it for us tonight on Sports Talk. Been a great show. Had fun. Glad you were with us. Monday, we will all reconvene. Corn and Pro will be back. We'll get you squared away with another great week of Sports Talk programming. Have yourself a great Friday night. Have yourself an even better weekend. We'll see you here Monday night, same time, same place on Sports Talk.